Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we're going to be talking about Emerge Virginia, a candidate training program for Democratic women who run for office. And joining me tonight is the Honorable Kate Hanley and Atima Omara, who are both board members of Emerge Virginia. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having us.
So let's start at the beginning, shall we?
Good place to start.
It's a good place to start.
You begin with ABC.
So let's talk about Emerge America and the fact that some people may have heard of it, some people may not have heard of it, but sort of what is the structure and how did Emerge Virginia come into being?
Well, Emerge America is sort of the umbrella organization, and they're now, what did you say, Atima, 22?
Yeah, 22 affiliates
22
now.
Affiliates across the country. It's been growing very rapidly in the last year. They've added about 8 that work in their home states to recruit and train, but primarily to train women to run for office and to win.
That's very key.
That's an important part. So back in 2013, there was an organization called the Farm Team that was helping women, and we morphed more or less into a local chapter of Emerge Virginia, and we have a statewide board of people that have been involved in various aspects. I think you might, Atima has all kinds of experience in democratic organizations, and that we established a board and went out and had our first class in 2014, recruited people, and then we have 2 different programs. So we have been, we've been working.
Very busy.
Yes, very busy, and we're pretty pleased about how it's caught on, because we don't endorse. We do not endorse candidates, and that's one of the important parts of what we do. We don't endorse, we don't contribute, we don't raise money for candidates. That's something else. But we do 2 things generally. We train women in the long 7-month program who think they might want to run for office in 3 to 5 years. And that's sort of long term. What you need to do, what you need to know about running for office, and then the nuts and bolts as well. There's 7 months program. And then because we have an election in Virginia every year, we have a boot camp program where people have already said, I'm going to be on the ballot next November, and we have an intensive 3-day training for not the long-term get on boards and commissions, but the immediate, here's how you organize a campaign, here's how you knock on doors, here's how you raise money, all those kinds of things. And so we have those 2 programs, as well as some other shorter programs that we've had a lot of demand for, particularly this year. This year has been a very busy year. But our board is very busy because it helps us find candidates. It's a big state. And we don't want to be, here we are in Northern Virginia, but we don't want to be just Northern Virginia. And so our board works around the state to help us find candidates.
And you've got some really outstanding people on your board, starting with Atima Omara.
Yes.
Who represents, first of all, you are a young person.
Yeah.
You are a young person. Still think of you as a young person.
Hold on to that.
Hold on to that. You are a young person. And not only that, you really made a name for yourself across the country when you became the president of the Young Democrats of America.
Yeah.
And that was a first for Virginia, I believe.
Yes, it was.
And the first African American female president of the Young Democrats of America. So running a national campaign, because that was a national campaign for young. So you come at a young age with a lot of experience about exactly how this works.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was really exciting about this board forming at the time that I actually had just won my role as President of the Young Democrats of America was that I had worked on campaigns, and I really wanted to work on a lot of women-elected campaigns. So I'd worked congressional campaigns across the country in Pennsylvania and Ohio. I worked on ballot initiatives in Florida, and had worked on congressional races in Virginia, and had worked on Chanel Herring's race, managed her first primary attempt. And so I really wanted to find an organization that allowed me to have the opportunity to really continue changing the face of politics. As Emerge America likes to say, we're here to change the face of democratic politics. And we need more women at the table. And this party the base is women. And our party, when women vote, Democrats win. That's always the popular phrase. And we need to make sure we're putting our money and our actions, where our mouth is, and making sure that women have the opportunity to sit at the table as well.
So tell us a little bit about, so it takes a village, I am sure, donors, because you raise money not to give to candidates. There's another organization that does that, and you're also involved with that, Atima.
Yeah.
We can cover that. We
We'll
can circle
cover that
back
one
around that.
later.
We'll circle back around to that. But
Well, that's an outgrowth of our alums.
It
Our
is.
alums are a powerful force.
Absolutely, but there are people who train these women, and you hold the sessions in different parts of the state, and you have board members who are from different parts of the state, and they bring lots of different things. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
Well, we do try to, because it's a big state, and we don't want everybody to have to come just to Northern Virginia or just to Richmond. We try to train in Tidewater and Charlottesville, and as we get more people further west and south, farther west and south. But we have been very lucky. I think you were a trainer for one of our segments.
Was early on, I think in the very first class you had.
We try to have people who know running for office is a little bit different than applying for a job. And so we try to have people who know what that political milieu is like. And so we've been very lucky to have people be willing to come and to talk about campaign organization and fundraising and all those, each
Different segment,
is
right?
a different segment. The fundraising one is the hardest to teach, and one of the times we did it was we had Mary Ann Hovis, one of our board members, be the person that folks called.
Yeah.
And she has supported a lot of candidates for a long time, and she could tell you whether she was going to hang up or
Wow, so that was like
support.
role playing then, like doing call time?
We do a lot of that. We do a lot of that. We do a lot of role playing about knocking on doors. We do a lot, fundraising, all of that.
Endorsement interviews too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All because and particularly your 3-minute speech. We spend a whole day on messaging and figuring out what your message is and how you present it, and then how you present it, what the message is, and how you go about presenting it, and what you need to do to own your space and make it clear what you're about. You got to be for something.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have to absolutely be sure you can say what that is.
And so, Atima, when the candidates come in, and I know they're coming from everywhere, what are some of the things that they come in with that are most difficult? I mean, I'm sure call time is probably, raising money for women is hard.
Yeah.
Is that the most difficult thing?
I think it's actually that, honestly. I think it's hard for any candidate of any gender, but I think as women, statistically, we're very good at raising money for a lot of things, like PTA and a lot of causes we care about. And, the fact that we have to be continuously encouraged, like asked more times, they say statistically for women, to run for public office. So actually thinking of putting ourselves first and being like, I'm asking you to give to me who's running for office has presented itself as a difficulty sometimes. And so a lot of folks really struggle with that, but it's something that we really try to work hard so that they can learn how to do that and how to actually use your list, use the communities in which you came up in, organizations that you've served with, boards you've served on, to really have a successful fundraising plan, because you can't just call some donor who just gives a lot to Democrats but you have no relationship with. It's really about starting in the community where you came from.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think we have a photo of our Emerge group from a brunch that was in Richmond. I don't think it's the entire board.
It was there, but I think the picture is, that's not the picture.
So there's a picture that was in, Terry McCullough was there, Dorothy McCullough was there.
Because she's on our board.
Yeah, Dorothy, so the First Lady is on the board. You have somebody
There
from
it
Labor.
is, yeah.
You
There
have
it is.
Doris Krause-Mays. You have
Yes.
Dorothy McCullough. You have a lot of really powerful women from all over Virginia on your
Got
board.
Kathleen Murphy there as a
Yes,
delegate.
our delegate, and we were talking about Mary Ann. There she is
Yes.
in the front, and of course Elizabeth Cranwell. So that's part of it. There's more of it.
There is. And so in talking about Mary Ann Hovis, and I do want to talk about Mary Ann for a minute, because Mary Ann has really done a lot for a lot of candidates, not just women candidates, although she certainly has supported everybody from our local sheriff to, you know, our House of Delegates. But she's also supported the governor's race, the lieutenant governor, you know, the attorney general. She and Bob have opened their home, and she has done so much to promote women. And let's talk about the fact that we're talking about democratic, progressive women. So there are organizations that do training for, it's nonpartisan, bipartisan, but Emerge Virginia is about progressive democratic women. And I think that's one of the things that Mary Ann is interested in supporting everyone who's run for the Democratic Party. But from the beginning, it was about having more women. And we all know here that Virginia is terrible. 43rd out of 50 states.
17% of the General Assembly. That's one of those numbers emblazoned.
We're lower than Congress now, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is something, and so this is something too that I think that Mary Ann has always been interested in, is the fact that we've got to raise those numbers.
But she has also been active in the rural, in recruiting Democrats in rural areas. You know, her father was in Congress.
Congressman Pat Jennings, and there's a special program that you have.
There is a special program with the Democratic Party of Virginia to reach out to for local officials. I think we didn't say that so much about Emerge. We need to be clear, and the Pat Jennings Project does too, that we are not just talking about running for the House of Delegates or the State Senate or Congress. We're talking about school board and city council and soil and water conservation board. We have an alum on a soil and water conservation board, and town supervisors, and I'm a local government devotee. So we are interested in all of that, not only because that's where a lot of the action is, where a lot of important decisions are made, but also we build the bench. And that 17% is not going to get to any higher percent if we don't have women in the pipeline.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this segment, I just want to say one more thing too about Mary Ann. I think we have a photo of Mary Ann with Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam. And one of the things that I think Mary Ann has really been focused on in 2017, in addition to our women candidates, is supporting our Lieutenant Governor. And so that's one of my favorite pictures of Mary Ann. And so we'll come back after this segment, after this break, and we'll talk a little bit more about what Emerge Virginia is doing to get more women elected to office in Virginia. And as Kate Hanley has said, that means local office, state office, all offices. Elect more women. So please join us after this break to find out how we're going to do that.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation.
You're resigning.
Why? You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
Oh, I forgot. I'll do better. Please don't quit on me.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bagging lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feedthepig.org.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we are talking about Emerge Virginia. This is an organization here in Virginia that trains and recruits and helps women be prepared to run for office. Joining me is the Honorable Kate Hanley and Atima Omara, who are both on the board of Emerge Virginia, and I appreciate you being here so much because this is a big year in 2017.
Virginia is always a little odd in having an election every year, and in the odd years and the very odd years. But it keeps us busy, and it's really kept Emerge Virginia busy this year. We saw an explosion of people interested after the November election, and so we have had a boot camp, we've had a class, and we have right now on the ballot, we have 24 women on the ballot this year.
Which is remarkable.
It is remarkable.
9 of them are in Hillary Clinton districts that Hillary Clinton won.
Right.
And those are the competitive in the top 17 that are sort of like the HRC one, but Republicans are in those seats, so which is awesome.
So they're considered flippable, I think is the term.
Yes. 18 of our 24 are running for the House of Delegates. 6 are running in local elections this year. There are not too many local elections, but one of our alums is the sheriff of Fairfax County, and we have another alum running for sheriff in the city of Richmond.
Oh, how about that?
So we have a number of school board members right now. I think we have 6. Some of them are now running for the House of Delegates, Shelley Simons.
That's right.
We have people at all levels, town council, city council alums. But right now we have 18 alums running for the House of Delegates.
That's amazing.
And I would say it's keeping Julie pretty busy.
Yeah.
Yes, Julie Copeland. So we should give a
talk
nod to the woman
Julie.
who keeps it going. Julie Copeland is amazing. She really is.
She is our executive director, and she also has a role of being shepherd and guide, and on the other end of the phone, no matter
right,
what.
because she makes herself available, and I know she always says that when a candidate has a question or an issue or whatever, they have her cell phone number, and she's there for them.
You know, one of the things we need to talk about, I think, is it really is different running for office. The rules are a little bit different for women when you run for office. You've discovered that, I think. I certainly have known it for 100 and some years now.
Right, because you run
from
in
the
a lot of
last
elections.
century. But we know that from various studies. First, we know that women have to be asked more than once. Yeah. If somebody says to a guy, you know, you should run for office, he says, man, that's a really good idea.
I think I will.
If I say you should run for office, you have to be asked several times.
Yeah,
and
close to 7, they say.
Yes, we discovered that. And so that was making it hard to recruit candidates because the recruiters weren't persevering. And we also know from studies that male candidates can be, let's see, either qualified or likable.
Right.
Women have to be both.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that is another place where the rules are different.
And oftentimes, sometimes qualified and competent doesn't necessarily mean likable, as we've seen with some women candidates who run for office.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true, how they are perceived. So you have to be, if I remember my quadrants correctly, you must be warm and strong.
Yes.
Warm and strong. So, you know, thread that needle so that you're strong, but not too strong, and warm so that you're likable.
Yeah.
But not sloppy.
Right. Not too, yeah, you can't be a pushover.
Like Hillary Clinton was very polished, and Bernie Sanders could have that lovable, like ruffled hair look, like kind of an older grandpa. And so, you know, that was okay, right? Yeah, you know, and Hillary Clinton always had to be very on point. And I think it's with women candidates all the time, like how you dress, what kind of lipstick you wear, like how.
And do you get pushback from your, you know, because I know that especially a lot of young women talk about the importance of authenticity, and I do think that a lot of people are looking to really know the candidate. You know, what is your story? Tell me your story. Help me understand who you are and what you care about. All of that is true. But we still make 3-second judgments about people. And I don't think that's going to change. So they have to understand that before people can kind of get to know you, they have to decide that you're credible enough to listen to.
Right. One of the things I really like about candidate running against Bob Marshall, Danica Karam, she very much wears these comfortable flats that she can work with, and sometimes she wears scarves on her hair, and she dresses a little non-traditionally, not always in suits, but she knows the issue, she knows the community, and that's really showing, especially in the excitement around her candidacy, and especially in kind of a year after Trump has been elected.
Yeah, she really does know her stuff, and it really shows.
And she's talking to the issues, and that's the other thing, is she wants to stay focused on the Route 28 transportation issues. She's lived in that district all her life. That's really key to her message, is I've lived here. I'm on these same roads with you. I live here with you, and I have.
We all go slowly together.
That's right. And so that does make a difference. And she does wear signature kinds of things that you become associated with her candidacy, like her shoes.
Yeah, scarf in her hair.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things, we have several firsts this year, I think, on the ballot if they're elected. Kathy Tran, who is one of our alums, it will be
First Asian American.
the first Asian American. Elizabeth Guzman for the House of Delegates.
Yes.
Elizabeth Guzman
First
is running.
Latina.
Will be the first Latina in the House of Delegates when she's elected.
Yeah.
Female.
You've got Hala Ayala, so
yeah,
she won.
And she's running too. So
That's
we have
right.
an awful lot of.
Danica would be the first openly trans.
Yes.
Yeah. So these women represent like the women who live in Virginia. Is that a leap? I mean, or can I just say that?
You
Like, they kind of look like the women who live here.
I think you said it best.
Yeah.
We're trying to have our elected officials look like the people they represent.
Yeah.
And actually represent the people they represent. And so that's what we're about. When we think about the class, one of the things that I've been really impressed with that I did not see coming was that the classes, even the boot camps, end up with kind of a cohesive
camaraderie. They're a unit. There are relationships there, really strong relationships.
And they now, as we have more and more alums, and you probably see this in other states, they help each other and they help all their alums. They fundraise. We have, in a recount, we have one alum who helped another, an attorney who helped another one in a recount. We're seeing a network that builds up, and a network of support, not just for those. In other words, those that might not be running right now are out knocking doors and doing a lot of help and doing fundraising help and going to events. And so this cohort I was a little surprised about, because I'm not much of a groupie. But it really has been important to the success not only of the program but of the candidates.
You know, and I think that's important because I think women, one of the greatest fears, and I have run too, I've run and lost, is that no one's going to be there. Like, people are like, oh, you should run. Oh, Catherine, go, run. And then you're doing it, and it's like, where is everybody? Where is everybody?
Yeah, we've all done that.
You're right. And so when you say you're going to run, when you said you were going to run a team, it's kind of like, who are my people?
Yeah.
Where are my people at? And so, and I was right there.
Yeah.
I was right there. When Charnel said, dude, she was among 13 people. 13 people who said they were going to run, I'm like, that's my candidate. That's those, you know, these women really do have to jump to help and support other women candidates.
Yeah.
One of the things that we encourage people who think they may be going to run for office, not right this minute, but right this minute, it's even more important, but in the next few years, is something you talked about earlier, which is build your own lists. Incorporate, get ready, know who your friends are, and your acquaintances, and know their addresses and their emails and their telephone numbers and what their interests are. When you think about it, you run into, and you probably have huge lists now from across the country and YDs across the country, but if you can't contact them, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
And so we are always encouraging people to sit down now and make and know, in my old-fashioned parlance, get your Rolodex going.
Right.
I guess there must be some electronic version that we can call a Rolodex now. But have that so that you can use it the minute you start running. And the alums are good for that, but you need to know people in your own area. You know, one of the things that I've discovered, and I bet we're all getting a lot of phone calls from people we never heard of.
Yeah.
I got one today.
Office.
I've heard of her, but I haven't talked to her. So it's like, hi Tia, how are you? I do know you're running.
She's one of our graduates.
I know, and she called me today.
But the thing is, it's hard for us to And it's hard for them because we're not giving them money. We're
Right.
not contributing, we're not helping, we're not knocking on doors. They need to know people, they need to have their own support system.
Right.
And that's particularly important for them to have.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of the great things about Emerge is like we always talk about obviously having sort of your people when you're running for office, but even just people who've been through it and can tell you about what that experience is. Some folks who go through Emerge have maybe run for other things before. Maybe it's the first time some folks are going into public office, and maybe they've run for political office, and so they kind of know what to prepare for. And so you get these great cohorts, sort of when you go through Sorensen, you go through Leadership Fairfax or Leadership Arlington, and it's just a community of folks you can turn to who have resources that maybe you might not have. And that's really key if you're going to have a really grassroots campaign.
Right, and so we talk about commissions and committees and things that women can do in preparation for. So that playing for the long game means you come and you figure out how to campaign, but it might be a matter of raising your credibility and visibility to get an appointment. Former Secretary of the Commonwealth, Kate Hanley, explain to us how that works.
Well, we have a number of alums who have applied for appointments and are now serving on boards and commissions. You know, in the first year of a governor's term, and our governors in Virginia are lame ducks pretty much the
one term, 4 years,
the day they're elected. But in the first year, there are lots of people that think that they'd be interested in being on boards and commissions. But by the second and third year and fourth, there are not really that many people who are interested. And so the opportunities don't just end with the first year of a term. They keep going. And we've encouraged people to apply for boards and commissions, and they are serving on various boards and commissions. The reason that we encourage that, obviously, is so that, particularly if they're interested in the state government, they have some understanding about how state boards and commissions work. And it's always good to know something and know you're talking about, to know what you're talking about.
Absolutely, it gives you credibility, and it gives you subject matter expertise. It might be the library board, and we have a candidate running locally who's on a local library board.
I think she's the chairman right now.
Carrie Delaney. Yeah. And so that does give you something to talk about. See, you know, every time I say that, she's an alum. And so I do think it's important to kind of carry these women into the first level, which is how do you build a network so that you can apply for a board or a commission and get on that first. Right. So this has been fascinating. We have got 2 more segments to go. So I hope that you'll join us after the break. We're going to be talking with the Honorable Kate Hanley and with Atima Omara as we talk about how we're going to recruit and train Democratic women to fill all of the offices that are open across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we do want to elect more women. Join us after the break.
Strawberries? Okay.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed. Tonight we are talking about Emerge Virginia. This is an organization that was started in 2013, had its first class in 2014, now has 24 candidates running this year in 2017 in Virginia. And joining me is the Honorable Kate Hanley and Atima Omara, both from the Emerge Virginia Board. Thank you, ladies, so much. So recently, like a couple of weeks ago, I was in Atlanta for Netroots Nation, where I think I have seen you. Didn't get yours this time, but I think the last 2 years before that, I've always been in your session. And this is another way for you to build your national visibility, your subject matter expertise, and to draw attention to the fact on many levels, it's not just women, but also women of color too, and this intersectionality of the issues that affect women of color or people of color, and the fact that you have become a very national, credible voice on some of those issues.
Thank you. One of the panel that we did at Netroots was about Black women at the table in politics and activism, and sort of essentially how do we make sure that we get our seats at the table. You know, 94% of Black women voters voted for Hillary Clinton. That's more than any other demographic in the election. And yet, you know, when we're talking as a national party, Democratic-wise anyway, about who we should be catering to, we're talking a lot about white working class voters. And so it's like, all right, African American women want to step up and lead in the party, be elected to office, and have some of our issues that affect us be centered in the national dialogue. We're not saying others should be neglected, but we're saying we should be more centered than we have been. And so that was really a great dialogue of women, one who started Higher Heights, an African-American political organization to support Black women running for public office. Another woman was LaToya Jones. She had worked for AFT. She'd run for DNC vice chair, was the youngest Black candidate to do so, and the only Black woman candidate under 40 to run. We had Ashanti Golar, who's the political director for Emerge America, and we had Nikisha, who has worked with a lot of civic organizations as well. So it was a really great dialogue about how we can productively run for public office, run for party office, lead in our community, center issues, because African American women step up to the table and lead, and you look at an example like Maryland, where a lot of Black women electeds are, the issues of domestic violence, health care, disabilities are addressed, and they're definitely legislation that's very holistic and applying to all different communities, because the African American women are at very many different intersections. They could be LGBT, they could have disabilities, they could be younger, they could have been survivors of domestic violence. You know, I know Donna Edwards was a big advocate of starting, and she did start a national network to end domestic violence due to her own family experience and being a single mom. And so we bring all of this to the table, and so we're great contributors to the conversation. It's how do we encourage the next generation to step up and do that. So that's been something that I've been focused on in the party, and I know it fits very well with some of my passions, because Emerge Virginia and Virginia's List have also been getting a lot of women of color either endorsed or trained. I think Emerge Virginia trained about 50% of women of color thus far, and there's definitely that need and that hunger out there about how to get more involved and make change, especially after this fall election.
You know, and you do have a very diverse group, and you have from the very beginning had a very diverse group of people. But when we were talking in 2017 about the first Latina, you know, to run, or the first Asian American woman to run, I mean, these are things that should have been, we should have that diversity, and these women should have felt that there was a path for them to elected office. But I know, and again, you've got board members that bring a lot of talent. You're really focusing on having, you know, trainees that bring a lot of different talents. So, you know, going forward, are there specific races that you think are maybe key this year?
Well, certainly they're key this year, but let me talk about 2 years from now before I talk about this year. I'm always talking ahead. One of the things that we're working on now is to figure out statewide. We're working with the party, and we have volunteers working on this to know every elected office in Virginia.
So municipal too?
Municipal.
There's like 600, I think there's 600 municipal.
Yes, and the constitutional officers, everything, to know what those terms are, where they are, what those terms are, to know when those seats come open, just to know about those seats so that we can start now and begin to work to recruit in those areas and know where those possibilities are. We sort of lose that data. We have, over the years that I've been doing this, I think I've worked on it 3 times. And we can't ever quite hang on to it and update it. And so we at Emerge want to do that so that we can tell candidates
Something's coming
about
up.
something, yes, that this person expires, their term expires, I guess.
Right, not the person expires, just the term.
And that would be a possibility that has a good voting history, so that we know more about the actual offices.
Well, you know, and that's true because, like, until Bettina Lawton ran for clerk of the circuit court, I didn't know that was an 8-year term. Who would have known that was an 8-year term? Well, see, most people are like,
in politics, it's known as the best office to have.
Right?
Term,
but
yes.
a lot of things voters do not know about, which means candidates do not think about.
That's true.
Sheriff or Commonwealth's attorney or clerk of the circuit court.
And many localities have. For example, Arlington has Commissioner of the Revenue, the Treasurer.
That's true.
Many
you guys
localities
know.
have things that are elected that Fairfax County and City, well, City has some of them, but the county doesn't elect them. So there are a whole bunch. We're trying to find out what all that is everywhere. And
that's
even
a huge project.
Even though, yes, and even though Virginia doesn't have as many local officials as most states, because we're, separate cities and counties and all of that, we've still got a lot of them, and we need to know where they are. So we're thinking about next year, but next year's a smaller number of offices available, but 2 years from now is
I think it's hard in Virginia. It's hard because a lot of those municipal offices you were talking about are May elections.
Yes, they are.
Some of them, but not all of them, have moved to November. We have elections every year in the off year, and then there's the off year, and in the governor's races. Yeah, and we have special elections all the time. It just seems like people vote multiple times every single year.
Well, we'd like to be sure that they do.
And of course, that's another role you're playing, one of the many hats you wear on the...
I used to say voting for me was like riding a bicycle. Once you learn to do it, you could just keep doing it.
That's right, because now you're doing work on the electoral board, too.
Virginia's List. You're on the Virginia's List board. Let's step back, if we can, a little bit to the alum. Many of our alums got together and realized that a couple of years ago that one of the things that Emerge doesn't do, but they could do as alums, was to help fund the women that were running for office.
Raise money.
And so they established Virginia's List. And
Atima is a very central player in that.
Yes.
Yeah. So what came out of a lot of conversations that I think were happening around the same time in 2013 and 14. We were seeing great women candidates step up, run for public office, and usually if the woman got the Democratic nomination, it was pretty easy sail forward and getting support from the caucus or the local Democratic Party or whatever entity was supposed to support you in your election. But it was the women were getting stuck in the primary, especially in areas where you had a lot of candidates running. I had run in like a 6-person primary myself in a special for the 48th, and I know you had run against a lot of folks who ran for Fairfax City Council, and others who'd had similar experiences. And so, there's some of us in Northern Virginia, and then there was Amy Loffer, who's an Emerge Virginia grad, who was also thinking about that similarly in Charlottesville.
Let's give Amy a plug. She's on the school board, but she's running for
City Council,
and she won her primary and actually got more votes than
anybody else.
In the primary. So she's doing great. But one of the things was, she was having this conversation with her people in Charlottesville. We were having this conversation amongst us in Northern Virginia, and we had sort of figuring out paperwork to maybe start something, and she had already had something formed, and so we thought, let's just merge efforts, and
it worked out very well.
It worked out very well. Started off as Women Leaders of Virginia. It's now Virginia's List, and it basically functions as a statewide Emily's List, endorsing and supporting progressive, pro-choice Democratic women candidates who are running for public office and giving them support. So there's a lot of now good synergy between us and Emerge Virginia, because they focus on the training. A lot of the women, once they come through our training, they'll come to us for endorsements, and a lot of our endorsements, whether it be Emily's List and us, and the folks that they have trained are overlapping. So it's a great reinforcing network for us, I think, as a community to work together and making sure that we're changing the face of Virginia politics.
And it helps a lot when we're next to each other. So when these 7 remarkable women put on the Women's Summit out in Leesburg, these are 7 women, only a couple of them knew each other. 70 days later, they put on this Women's Summit. 344 people show up, all these organizations show up, including Virginia's List and Emerge Virginia. And being in that room with all of these super energized, inspired, and motivated women, we got to explain that Emerge Virginia does the training, teaches you how to run. Virginia's List raises the money so that in your primary, and you're right, Atima, this is where a lot of women can't make it, is in the primary, that we provide the funding.
And here I have to insert that we had 14 women running in primaries, Emerge graduates, this year in the primaries for House of Delegates. 11 of them won. The 3 of them that lost to graduates who won. So we had graduates running against each other.
Wow,
so we
that's
won
remarkable.
all of the ones that we were in. But the important part is they knew that and we knew that. And we trained both of them and said, okay, here's the deal. After the primary, one supports the other.
Right.
That the primary will decide, and then we need to all be all in. And so, yes, we train people who run against each other. And, you know, that sounds like it's a bad idea, but it really is a good idea because we can't see down the road.
No, and
so we don't know what's going to happen, and we just want to have good candidates.
So let's talk about Shelley Simons.
Okay.
So let's talk about Shelley and
Let's
the
talk about
unexpected
Shelley.
opportunities that you don't see down the road, who suddenly
Yes.
pop up.
Shelley ran, she's on the school board in Newport News, and she ran before and didn't win. And then this year, she didn't file to run again, but the person that did dropped out like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I mean, so close to the election.
They had a
caucus,
and she was nominated, and she's running for the House of Delegates.
And it was a 5-day firehouse caucus. So they had to show up for 2 hours and vote on Tuesday, having been alerted, you know, that they had to file by that Friday previously before. And so she was literally like, this is when having your lists is really, really helpful, because you get to ignite your network, do phone calls to them. She'd already had sort of that community there from when she ran for school board and had run for state house before. So.
And this, to me, is training people to be prepared for the opportunity. So one of my favorite little axioms is that success is where preparation meets opportunity. And a lot of times the preparation is there, but you can't figure out what the opportunity is.
Well, you're talking to somebody who won 2 special elections, so what can
See,
I
so
say?
and women do really well in special elections, and in Northern Virginia they do well in special elections with snow. Eileen Philipporn, Kathleen Murphy,
Mine
Jennifer
was on
Wexton.
November the 15th for chairman.
So we hope for
February the 15th.
So we pray for special elections and snow. If we want to elect women in Virginia.
And the signs stay up because nobody will get out of their car.
So please join us after this short break for the final segment of our show, when we talk again about how we are going to recruit and train more progressive women candidates to run for office here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, because we need to elect more.
Guess what? I have some news for you. There's free food right there, junk food. You see that truck? Oh, jeez. It's a 2 Michelin star chef. All for free, ladies and gentlemen. All for free.
Here we have a panzanella with summer vegetables and pesto. Enjoy. How we doing?
So what do you got going on underneath that plate there?
This food is really about to be thrown away.
Yeah.
Is there something wrong with this food? Where did you get it from?
From farmers markets. They put aside the ugly vegetables and the ugly fruits.
Carrot top, soft avocados. It was all food that was going to be discarded.
Even the drink you had is made from like a little bruised peach. Did it taste a little bruised?
Great. It's good.
The average person throws away 24 pounds of food a month.
That's a lot.
Isn't that a lot? Go visit savethefood.com for more information. Thank you. Junk food time!
Only you can prevent wildfires.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed. Tonight's topic is Emerge Virginia and how we are going to elect more Democratic, progressive, pro-choice women in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And joining me is the Honorable Kate Hanley and Atima Omara, both of whom are on the board. Thank you, ladies, so much. So we were talking about the fact that you are looking at constitutional offices, municipal offices, every office, not just the ones at the top, the ones at the bottom.
Well, Virginia, I do that pyramid in reverse, the ones closest to the people.
Closest to the people, I like that too.
The interesting part about running for office in Virginia, particularly at the local level, is that many of our cities and towns run without party designation. They are technically nonpartisan. We are training Democratic women who are Democrats, let's put it that way. And so that we have women who are Democrats running for those nonpartisan offices that we have trained, but they may be running for nonpartisan offices. Many, as I say, many of our towns and cities do that. Several run with the party designation. Most boards of supervisors run with the party designation, and most constitutional officers run with the party designation. Every now and then there'll be some of those that will run, or for the treasurer and those things will run as an independent. But generally, that's
and there's an endorsement process.
And there is an endorsement process. And one of the things that happened starting in 1995, I really was in the last century for this one, is that with the election, the permissible election of school boards, and not all localities elect their school boards in Virginia still, those are considered nonpartisan. We happen to have 6 women that we have trained, 6 alums serving on school boards right now.
Amy Laufer's one, I know that.
Amy Laufer's one. Let's see if I can tell you who they are. Dahlia Palchek, Amy Laufer, Angelia Allen in Portsmouth, Charlita Mason in Lynchburg, Shelley Simons in Newport News, and I may have missed somebody. But they run nonpartisan, often with endorsements. Here in Northern Virginia, the parties tend to endorse. So people file as nonpartisan, but then they are endorsed by the political parties. That happens in some other parts of the state, but not all of them.
So we've got an example of that right now, because we've got a special election on August 29th here in Fairfax County. And it's the day after school starts, which is very weird. So, because we're starting earlier than we ever have before. Usually it's after Labor Day. So now it's starting on the 28th. So that was the first anomaly that people have to put their minds around. Then the very next day, people are going to be voting in the schools while school is going on. But there are 4 candidates actually on the ballot.
Yes.
And it is nonpartisan. But 2 of those candidates have in fact been endorsed by the parties here in the county.
Correct. And so that happens often in not just school board races, but in other nonpartisan races. You'll have 4 or 5 candidates, not in a primary, but in a general. And 1 or 2 of them may have endorsements, or endorsements by other parties, and several people may just have filed, met the requirement. In Fairfax County, yes, we're going to vote in all 243 precincts on the 29th. It's at the at-large seat, on one of 3 on the school board. And so school will be open. It'll be the second day. And everybody will vote from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. at their regular polling place, even though school will be open. And so that is a big election to happen right here.
And one of those candidates on that ballot is one of your alumni.
Yes, she is.
There you
Karen
go.
Keys-Gamarra is one of the alums of Emerge Virginia. We've met her. She ran for the school board before. She serves on the Planning Commission in Fairfax County now, which is a busy and a task that also teaches you a lot about the geography and who lives in Fairfax County. But that is an example of an alum being ready.
And the opportunity
presenting itself, and so that's on for the 29th. People may ask why we're doing it now and not in November. And that's because, and so they go to the code, and they look up the general code, and they tell us we're all wrong. Fairfax County has its own section of the code, the Urban County Exec. And so what happens is that if you resign early enough in the year, you have to have the special election not less than 30 or more than 90, I believe, days after the resignation. And the resignation was too early to drive the election, the special election, onto the November election day. So that's why we're having that special election in Fairfax. People are quite confused because we have one in November too, and
yeah,
and
we've got one in September in Fairfax City because we just love special elections.
Yeah.
So, Atima, tell us a little bit about what your advice would be especially to millennials, because I personally encourage, as you know, historically, I have always been about more young people too.
Yeah.
And so a lot of young people, when I go to conferences, a lot of the young people are like, but you know, how does a young person get elected? I mean, where do you even start, or who do you call? I mean, what would you tell a young person who's like, yes, I am ready to step up and be part of the answer?
I never want to discourage anybody from, they wake up on election day and are like, I want to run, and that's where they think they want to go. Definitely, there's certainly been tons of men who fought similarly and sometimes have been very successful in winning. But I think if you're really thinking about getting involved and are worried about not being taken seriously because you're young, you know, it's definitely being rooted in that community. I've known folks who run who are very young. They came of age in that community. Maybe they went to college there. They settled there. They found a job there. So it's really talking about the ties you have to that community, maybe getting involved in an organization, trying to get on a board, starting up a group that, you know, is focused around the election, volunteering for your local candidates, getting to know your local elected officials, just getting known as sort of like a commodity and somebody who will go out and do things. Because honestly, like, a lot of folks are always happy to see younger people at the table because eventually they want to retire and not keep doing it as well.
Yes.
So it's just making sure that you're getting involved.
So were you surprised about Katie Crystal?
No,
being elected?
No, I actually wasn't. I mean, I was surprised in that we had not historically ever elected somebody so young.
Right, I mean...
So it was just, you know, in Arlington, we've always elected younger people, but they've been like early 40s, you know, later 40s, and she's, at that point, was just very early 30s, if not just had turned 30. So, you know, she was somebody who had lived in Arlington for a while, had served on a couple of commissions, and really, I think at a really great time in the community when we were looking to have a new direction on a couple of major initiatives, presented a very viable alternative, and she presented herself as somebody who was very well studied on the issues. And I think that's something else. Know the community you're running in and actually what's affecting it. You know, don't try and nationalize or make a statewide issue out of a local race if that's what you're running for. You know, speak to the issues for this position you're trying to run for.
And don't you think too that your point about campaigning for other people, you know, we just had a governor's primary where it's kind of like the people who help other people build a network of they gave before they asked.
Yeah.
And I think young people who are highly motivated need to understand too that when you go out and you help somebody, those are the people who are going to be more than happy to step up and help you too.
You know, we talk about the fact that the boomer generation, I'm even too old to be a boomer, has held on too long. But the reality is, A, yes, we'd like to retire. But B, I was 41 when I joined the school board and 43 when I was first elected. That didn't seem young to me at all at the time, too young to be elected. Nobody said that. Now we've just held on, and it's time for us to recruit and
create some openings
and be sure that there are opportunities and that we're willing to hand the baton off because it's time.
Yeah.
And 43 didn't seem so young to me then. Now we think, oh my goodness, that's very young. It isn't. It's fine.
Right. And Kate's story is very similar to those, you know, women of sort of her generation, Nancy Pelosi and others, who they started running for office once their children were much older. And with, you know, our generation, Gen Xer women, especially millennial women, were like, oh wait, we could start doing this earlier. We can figure out ways to make family and work to be able to do some of of these things. And you know, the earlier you start running, we have to think about seniority down the line.
Right.
You know, Pelosi was able to be Speaker of the House because she'd been there for 20 years. She'd proven her fundraising chops, her legislative chops, her ability to build networks. And you know, imagine if she had run when she was 30. She could have maybe been Speaker by the time she was like 50 or a little earlier.
That's true. And we've got some really wonderful young women. Charisse Aird is one of the ones that, and she's got young children.
Yeah.
And Kathy Tran is the mother of 4.
She was campaigning out with her youngest one, who was just a newborn.
Is a newborn.
Born in January, December, January.
So the people who were like, and there was once upon a time, and maybe it still happens, it's kind of like, well, who will take care of your children?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
You know, these women are proving, actually, I got that covered. I'm out here running because I got that covered. You don't even need to worry about who's taking care of my children because I got it covered.
Yeah.
It is important to have. I had worked in the political structure as well as other. You name a board, I think I've served on it, but it's important to reach out and bring people along, and that's what we're doing. Is that we're looking to find people who can now take that opportunity to plan, to do the things that they need to do to make them electable. We're not just training, I've got to say it again, people to run for office. We're training Democrats to run for office and win.
Win
That's
office.
a focus. And the long term means that people really need to be involved in their community. You know, when people ask me, what should I do? Well, there are 2 things. Well, there are a lot of things, but one is you can find your interest and get involved with it. In Virginia, we have commissions and boards and organizations at every level of government. And also, because we are generally a 2-party system, you need to get involved with how the political system works, because you can't learn it in a day.
That's true.
It is a little more arcane than people think, and it changes. But you need to know how that works, so that when you run, you're comfortable with it.
I think one of the examples there, which was a great success, was Sheriff Stacey Kincaid, who was a great deputy captain for 26 years and wasn't necessarily a politico. She was a political novice, but the team came together behind Stacey. She was elected the first sheriff of Fairfax County.
First female
sheriff.
We've had sheriffs since 1742.
First female sheriff, but that was really a great example. And so I want to thank both of you for being here. This was really important to have your voices, for people to understand what Emerge is doing, because this is critical if we're going to elect people in 2017, 2018, and all those municipal... 2019, 2021, right?
Yeah.
So thank you both so much. And join us next time. Inside Scoop is on every Monday night live at 8 p.m. here on Channel 10 here in Nova. Thanks so much for joining us.